Joining us now on the line from Portland, Oregon, Fred Hansen. He is the general manager of something called TriMet, the Tri-County Metropolitan Transportation District of Oregon. And Mr. Hansen, we're glad to have you on TVO tonight. How are you?
Thank you, Steve. Great.
One of the reasons we wanted to have you on was that we've heard a great deal about your system, and we're about to undergo some significant alterations to our transit system here, so we wanted to learn a bit from your experience to see if there are any applications here. For example, we've heard that you have something called the total transit system. Give me your handy-dandy definition of what that refers to.
Well, for us, the total transit system isn't just about the travel time, the distance or the vehicle that you're on. It's about that whole experience. So it's everything from how do you plan the trip to whether you can find out exactly when your vehicle is going to arrive, the bus or the train, not in scheduled time, but in actual time, countdown in minutes. It's the safe crossings of streets to get to your bus stop or station. It's the good pedestrian access as well.
Light rail is something we're about to invest in quite heavily, and that's something that's a big feature in your system. What's the rationale behind light rail?
Well, for us, light rail is several things. Number one is it's high-capacity transit. That is, we run two-car trains. You can, in different communities, run more cars than just that. But for us, we have very short blocks, just about 175 meters, our block lengths. And so we need to be able to have only two cars. So you have high capacity. We can carry over 300 people in a two-car train. But more importantly, light rail is allowed to be able to put it at street level. So it's really a part of the streetscape. It's not underground, although that can be very efficient from a standpoint of moving people. We really wanted it to be a part of the community, a part of the neighborhood. And as a result, we really do have it on the street level, going through some of our busiest central business district areas, as well as our suburban communities.
The streetcars are part of your system as well, and I wonder what the distinction is in terms of function between that and the light rail.
Well, the main difference is that the capacity of a two-car light rail train running about 330 people at maximum. A streetcar is smaller. It doesn't run in tandem. It's about 90 people. It's also not able to travel as high speed. So it really becomes more of a circulator in an urban area, really a part of the neighborhood. Whereas for our light rail, it runs from one end of our community to another, about 44 miles, and it really does provide for that long trip, although certainly a lot of people use it for short trips as well.
Now, unlike in Toronto, you don't have a subway system in Portland, but you do have something called frequent service bus lines. What role do they play in the mix?
Well, frequent service bus lines are other major high-capacity carrying. It's not that we have larger buses, but what we do is we guarantee that that bus will be running at least every 15 minutes, not just in rush hour, but all day long, into the evenings, and on Saturdays and Sundays. And what we find is that when people can count on it, don't have to look at a schedule, know they can always go out there, whether it's a Saturday or a Sunday or a Tuesday, and can count on a bus coming on average no more than 7.5 minutes away, they use it. And we find that we're getting double-digit, high double-digit, triple-digit increases in ridership when we move a line from what is just our local service to that frequent service.
Well, transit people make guarantees about the timeliness of their service all the time, and sometimes they hit their marks and sometimes they don't. How are you doing in terms of hitting the mark?
Well, what to us is most important is we want predictability for our riders. And so we've developed what we call Transit Tracker. And what that does is it allows anybody to be able to go online on their computer at home or at their office, to be able to call up on their cell phone and get the actual arrival time in minutes. So it counts down. It's 8 minutes away, it's 7 minutes away, it's 6 minutes away. So you know when it's coming. Gives you time to be able to just relax, go get a cup of coffee, pick up a newspaper, or know that the bus is just around the corner.
And it's accurate?
It is accurate. Obviously, an accident can throw it off or something else, but it is running off of global positioning system technology, and then we have a computer program that predicts essentially how fast we'll make it from the various positions that are reported through that GPS system. So it is very accurate, and what we hear from our riders are that when people use it, they think that the bus is much more likely to be on time, that it is running more frequent, even though it is running exactly as it did without that system.
Okay, let's talk for a moment about cyclists, because I know Toronto has thought of itself as a cycling-friendly city and is trying to be even more so. So are you. How much of an emphasis do you put on cycling in this sort of total transit system that you're talking about?
We think that cycling is a very key element of our total transit system. It is certainly about giving people choices when they need to be able to use a car if that's necessary, but to also give them choices to be able to ride public transit, to be able to walk, and to be able to bicycle. We end up utilizing space on our buses to be able to carry bikes for people who want to be able to make at least a part of their trip on a bicycle. We make sure that they are available in our light rail trains or our commuter rail as well. But what we really want to do is create neighborhoods that allow people choices about how they get around, how they get to go pick up their dry cleaning, or go to the grocery store, or go get a cup of coffee.
Well, in terms of the way you lay out the city, you've got this slogan, the 20-minute neighborhood. What does that mean?
Well, what it really means is that we want everybody in a 20-minute neighborhood to be able to get to essential services they need within 20 minutes, whether that's by biking or by walking or by riding transit. And what it does is it really says that you need in neighborhoods a sense of it being a complete neighborhood. It can't be just a residential area. It's got to also have that coffee shop, the dry cleaner, the grocery store, the restaurant, the ability to be able to walk or bike easily to essential services.
I should tell you that, and this may or not be accurate, but I think it's out there, most Canadians have thought for quite some time that Americans have let their downtown cores really go, certainly in the 70s and 80s, and I appreciate there's an attempt to bring the downtowns back more lately. But for a long time, that didn't seem to be the case. And I want to know how people in Portland eventually came to see the importance of a kind of a vibrant downtown core, leading to more investment in public transit, leading to a more livable city.
Well, I think it came about in a number of different ways, but certainly our mayor of Portland in the late 70s was key to it. At that time, there was a very large freeway that was being planned, the so-called Mount Hood Freeway. It was actually not only planned, it was underway. Acquisition of homes where it was going to cut through neighborhoods had already begun. And what was done, being led by our mayor, was a canceling of that freeway, and then taking those dollars and really reinvesting it in not only public transportation, but other transportation improvements. But combined with that was a commitment that the central city had to be vibrant and alive if the whole of the region were going to be as well. And consequently, major investments were made to be able to upgrade the retail core, to be able to upgrade the artistic core, our museums and cultural activities, to make it a 24-hour city where residents were a part of it. It didn't clear out at 5 p.m. when all the office workers left. It really became a very, very active area. And we did this throughout the decade of the latter part of the 70s, all through the 80s and the 90s, and we have really seen the payoff now.
I've also read that Portland is said to have some of the toughest land use bylaws of any American city, and I wonder how that played into this as well.
Well, clearly, land use is critical. You can't have a sprawling community and expect to either serve it well by transit, be able to make it very friendly for pedestrians or bicyclists, and you can't have it if it's a sprawling residential neighborhood. People decide, oh, they're not sure they really want that movie theater or something else that's nearby because it might bring something undesirable. Our land use requirements are really such that one is that we can't grow out too much. We have what is called an urban growth boundary, so it makes our development more compact. Number two, we recognize that economically, you can't continue to be able to put out more roads, more sewer lines, more water lines to distant areas without a very, very high cost. That ability to be able to make more economic choices is a key part of it. But all in all, it's about livability. It's about how to make neighborhoods places where people want to be, where they want to interact with their neighbors, even if they don't know them well, but want to be a part of the community.
In which case, let me follow up with a bit of a chicken or egg question here. Developing a transit system that allows for the creation of livable neighborhoods, or well-planned neighborhoods where a transit system can function effectively. Which comes first?
Well, I think it is the proverbial, as you said, chicken and egg. Both have to go in tandem with each other. And what we have found is that there are good investments in public transit, for example, that can spur the kind of development you want. But it isn't as if it's going to probably be in a green field, an area that has nothing. We have found it being most effective where there is a base that can, in fact, be invested in. And then that investment in public transportation, of making the land use elements work right, really spur that development to be the kind of development we want. In fact, we have done studies that show that we have a much higher density, a much quicker redevelopment or development of land when they are in close proximity to our either streetcar or our light rail lines.
What's the population of Portland?
It's the urban growth area that we serve is about 1.6 million. It's over 2 million when you take into account the whole of the region. So quite a bit smaller than you are there in Toronto, but I think our lessons can be applied equally well.
Well, you've taken me exactly where I want to go next because, yes, the fact is Toronto is significantly larger than your city, but I know a number of our civic leaders have pointed to Portland as things happening there that we can learn from, and I want to know, I guess, on the other side of that, whether you've learned anything from Toronto. So let's start with the lessons that Portland may have learned from Toronto as it has grown in size. What would be on that list?
Well, we look at Toronto oftentimes very enviously because what you have been able to do in your major transit investments that really are not just one line and then a few years later another line. It seemed to us at least that you've really been able to make a very large public investment in that transportation infrastructure, and we find ourselves, as I said, looking very enviously upon you. It does seem to us also that the core area of Toronto has been just a vibrant area. You really didn't go through what many U.S. cities did, which is really that decay that maybe is being brought back now. It seems to us that you've been able to really maintain that very vibrant downtown core areas. So from our standpoint, we think of those as very, very critical.
And how about the other way around? Even though Toronto is significantly larger from Portland, what can we learn from you from your experiences?
Well, I think going back first to that 20-minute neighborhood, because really what I think it's about is you need to be able to make places that people want to live and not just have a place where they sleep or where they prepare meals, but a place that's a community that allows for interaction with neighbors, that allows for the ability to be able to go out and walk or stroll, to be able to go get a glass of wine or a meal in the evening, to stop and get coffee in the morning, to be able to do other things that really makes it be a part of a neighborhood. And for us, what we think of when we think about transit, it is how do we really make it reflect and build upon neighborhoods to be able to really be a part of the community. In fact, in the greater Portland region, I think that there's not a local news program that comes on that doesn't have the required shot of Mount Hood, one of our most famous mountains, but almost every one of them also, in terms of the lead-in footage, have one of our MAX trains, our light rail trains, or one of our buses in the background, because it really has become a part of the signature of who we are. And I think that integration of transit and transportation into the very fabric of what Toronto is something that I think you've done a lot with, but I think we in Portland have been one of the leaders in.
And one last thing, Mr. Hansen, in our last 30 seconds here. You know, you can't spend billions on putting transit lines and any number of different new features of a transit system in place without enduring some criticism, and that certainly happened here in Toronto. I read that the Cato Institute has been critical of what you've done in Portland because they say your light rail lines, for example, are very heavily subsidized, that ridership really isn't high enough to merit that kind of expenditure on infrastructure. Do they have a point in your view?
I don't think they do. In fact, if you look at it, what we see is that when we invest in light rail, when we invest in streetcar, that it spurs major development, private sector development investment that has in fact been a boon to our area. And finally, I would just say, I think our riders vote with their seats. That is, our trains are full. They are full not just during rush hour, they are full throughout the day, into the evenings, on weekends. In fact, some of our highest ridership is on the weekends. People are making use of it, not just for that work trip, but because it's a part of their lifestyle.
Bums in seats is the ultimate compliment, really, at the end of the day, isn't it?
It is.
So to speak.
It is.
Fred Hansen from TriMet, the Tri-County Metropolitan Transportation District of Oregon. Good of you to join us on the line tonight from Portland. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.